Today we're checking out a couple new CIVIVI models. We're going to start it off with the BLUETICK. The second one is by far my favorite of the two. This one is pretty cool though. I mean, it's super snappy. It does have a very nasty looking straight clip point hollow ground blade. Very deep hollow. This is nice and thin, super duper slicey, very pokey. This almost feels like a self-defense knife in some, in ways. 14C 28M blade steel. Love the blade steel. Black G10 scales. Good texturing on it. You can easily reverse flick because of it being a hollow grind. You almost have like that little spot right there to catch your finger, so it's actually really easy. But then it has somewhat of a hooked flipper tab where it like angles up like that, which is a little pokey, but the detent is tuned very well so that it snaps out with authority and it's not painful, it's not annoying. You could definitely continue to do it over and over and over without it really giving you any issues. The liner lock access, good liner lock access. That is a steel liner lock. Ceramic caged bearings and detent ball, which does make it incredibly smooth. The deep carry clip is not inset, but it does have flat screws and it is reversible. TA hardware all the way around. Ergonomics, they're pretty good. I'm not a fan of this jimping. It's just, to me, this is not functional jimping. This is annoying jimping. If I had to bear down on this, I wouldn't, look at my thumb, I would not want to do that all day. However, like I said, I feel like this is somewhat of like a self-defense knife, and in those reasons, obviously it's going to be a great EDC knife. You got a nice forward choil, beautiful sharpening choil and plunge grind. It gives you like a spot to anchor in right there, so you can get some slicing done. Utility cuts are going to be great. The knife overall, man, it is a great knife, and it is shaped very well, so it's going to work great for EDC purposes. And then, like I said, you could possibly, hold it as a self-defense knife at the same time. I wouldn't always recommend a liner lock for that reason, but, hey, anything can work, in a pinch. But yeah, they do a good job with their edges, and I love the 14C28N. They do a great job with it. Damn it, they did a good job with this edge. That is a very sharp edge. Very thin behind the edge, man. As far as negatives go with this guy, the jimping, that's my biggest issue. I don't like it. I think it's a painful kind of jimping to use. I don't think it's effective at all. I think it's going to be just, a pain in the ass if you had to use it. But you can just avoid it and not use it. So, but if you had to, it wouldn't be a good one. So that would be my biggest negative. I could nitpick and say, the clip could be inset, but it's not a negative. That's more of just, nitpicking and little preferences and things like that. So all in all, solid knife. Only one negative, not too shabby. Now the next one, this one I by far like the most. This is the STARFLARE, and the name definitely suits the look. Now it has a Wharncliffe blade, and CIVIVI does some of the best Wharncliffe, well, CIVIVI and we, from the Sentinel Strike from CIVIVI, love that knife. One of my favorite Wharncliffes. Then you got the Ziphius from We Knife Co. That's another amazing Wharncliffe. Even the Elementum Wharncliffe, a badass Wharncliffe. If you want like a compact one. Nitro V Steel, like I said, beautiful Wharncliffe, man. This is a perfect example of a Wharncliffe blade. This is literally the definition right here of a Wharncliffe. Perfectly straight edge, tapering spine from the top, arching down to the tip. Very pokey. Again, I know I said the last knife could be a self-defense knife. This totally could do for poking and then slashing, because it has a nice straight edge. What benefits you with the straight edge like that is that when you're slicing, you're not going to slip out of the cut. Like if I grab the other one, when you get to the belly, sometimes these knives can slip out, especially if you're angled like this, it can kind of slip out. So the Wharncliffe traps it all the way out to the tippity tip because there's no, there's no turn. Sharpen tool and plunge grind, it's okay. You got a few sharpenings in there. You got a little clearance from the plunge grind. I prefer it bigger, but it's fine. Gray aluminum scales. I think these look really cool, and you can see it's got like the shooting stars on there. Big pivot. button lock action. And again, man, CIVIVI, we SendCut, they do a phenomenal job with their button lock action. From the detent to the lockup. I did have some stick on this one, but what I did was I took a little bit of Slick'em from OCD for EDC. You can find that on his site. And I just put a little tiny dab on the plunge. And it instantly went away. Now, I normally wouldn't recommend that for a lot of knives with stick or anything like that because it can make your lock slip. This one is doing just fine, but the stick went away. And I normally typically like a little bit of stick, just a hint of stick. I only did this just to see if it would work because I know some people get annoyed with the stick. I don't want a lot of stick, and this one kind of had significant stick, which usually goes away, but you know, because it wasn't, you know, just like a little bit of stick, I figured I'd work on it, you know. But typically I want a tiny bit of stick because that reassures me that the plunge from the locking system is fully engaged, you know, nice and tight. And it's constantly putting pressure. Deep carry clip, not in set, but it does have flat screws, TA hardware, reversible clip, again, TA hardware. I do wish they would have inset it. Back here, when I hold it back here, I do feel the clip. However, it's not horrible. Luckily, it's thick enough or wide enough right here that, you know, you can kind of avoid it, and it feels very comfortable in hand. If you choke up, forget about it. It is very, very comfortable. Pinch grips are going to be amazing with something like this, and then worn clips are almost always like this. If you don't have a flipper tab and, you know, you have clearance, turning it around and cutting backwards, cutting straps, like catching things and then bringing it towards you is really comfortable because of the, you know, the way the spine is right here. It distributes the pressure all the way across your hand. And it'd be the same thing for the forward, you know, the forward ergo or forward grip. Beautiful satin finish and very thin geometry, nice and thin. That's another thing, man. This is why I recommend CIVIVI's SendCuts to learn how to sharpen on, because they are super thin behind the edge in most cases. Not all, but most are very thin behind the edge, which leads to one, very good cutting geometry, so it's going to cut really well. And number two, it's going to be easier to sharpen. And, you know, your sharpening will just go so much better. So I highly recommend, if you're gonna learn how to sharpen, use something with thin geometry. Don't go with something thick. That will be an absolute nightmare. I think that's like the #1 issue people have with learning sharpening. There is a little fuller right here, and it actually is sharp. So I can actually take my finger and use it, which is kind of weird because I just realized that. And it works. It actually works pretty good. But yeah, the thumb studs are placed very well. They are, you know, slightly proud of the scales, which does make it very easy to kick out there. All the edges are rounded really nice. These aluminum scales are solid aluminum, so they feel tough while also being extremely lightweight. The clip works great, sliding in and out of the pocket. I do think if they would have done, and maybe they should think about doing this, some sort of milled pocket clip for their CIVIVIs. They used to do that back in the day, titanium milled pocket clips on many of their CIVIVIs, and you can always buy it. And maybe that's why they don't put them on there, because they give you the options to just go buy whatever clip. They have titanium milled pocket clips that'll fit their knives. You can even get a titanium spring pocket clip that looks very similar to this. So, you know, I guess I can't complain about that too much, but I do think, though, if you put the right clip on this, it would just, man, it would make this knife look like a premium pocket knife. The clip kind of is like a dead giveaway that it does not have a premium price tag. But yeah, rock solid lockup like a damn bank vault. So I do have one negative on this one, you know, as far as like actual negatives, and that is this stop pin right here. They put right behind the edge. I keep saying this, like, don't put a stop pin here. This is the steel we need to remove to sharpen it. Granted, it's in the thick portion. It hits, let me see. So it hits right, right on the line. So it's like right there. So when I am sharpening this, I need to be able to remove this steel, and eventually I'm gonna hit this. So either one, when I hit this, I'm going to have to cut in a new choil or just let it be. But if I let it be, grinding into right there is going to be very easy. And if I do, it could affect my ability to have the knife stay, you know, closed and not have detent lash. Right now it doesn't have any, but you know, that's something that could happen. Granted, that would be a lot of sharpening. You'd probably have your money's worth out of the knife at that point. But, you know, there are times where you drop your knife, you chip it, something happens to where you have to remove steel from the edge, and you have to remove a few years of steel from the edge in order to preserve the knife. So I just say, man, if you really care about the user end of your knife, make sure they have the ability to sharpen it for a very long time without issues. So with this one, you would have to make sure that you do not sharpen into this, that you sharpen up the blade after you get to this point without affecting that. So you might want to cut in like a little notch in front of this, which would be fine. So there is ways to prevent it, but it's still a negative. Perfectly centered. Like I said, CIVIVI almost always does a damn good job. That's why they are some of my most recommended knives, especially when you're talking about affordability. Okay, so seeing that it is the 10-year anniversary for CIVIVI, they do have some really cool sales going on. And like, they say up to 25% off, but this one's 50% off, and I really like this knife. The BLUETICK is, damn it. The BLUETICK is a great knife, and this is the wooden version, I think, which is the best version. But they probably have some other sales, and I do have a 15% discount code on CIVIVI's site. So any of these prices you see, this is not the real price. You got to take 15% off still. I don't know about with sale items that are discounted so, you know, with so much, but try it. You know, you might be able to get it for an incredible price. Here's another one, 43 bucks for that, man. That is a phenomenal deal. Shout out to them for their 10-year anniversary. That's awesome. They've done incredible work in the knife community, and they're going to continue to, man. This is one of the better companies, and it's definitely one of the top tier overseas companies when it comes to China. You know, there's a handful that are just absolutely amazing, and they are definitely at the top of the ranks. They employ a bunch of USA workers here. They go to blade shows. They, you know, deal with all the USA distributors and dealers. So, you know, they also use a lot of USA designers, a lot of USA materials. So, you know, this is a cool company to work with. You know, I know some people have, you know, the China thing where, you know, they're worried about, you know, supporting, you know, China, and I understand that. And if that's you, I'm not going to argue or debate you on it. You know, pretty much I got to say I agree. You know, but I do think there are some companies that are doing it well and do benefit the USA, you know, if you're going to go that route. Work hard, stay tough. Until next time, peace.